Get ready for an exhilarating journey with Insight into Insight, all things society. Brought to you by Intelligent Office, Nashville Downtown, the virtual office revolutionizing business success. I'm your host, Lord Danavan Hilton, International Business Advisor and co-mastermind of Hilton Elite Marketing Agency, a growing sales and marketing consulting firm promoting brands in urban areas of the United States to increase their customer base and community presence. Join me as we dive into the world of influential business moguls, civic leaders, and community icons. Get your pens and papers ready as we explore the juiciest, most sensitive topics that ignite curiosity and fuel ambition. It's time for you to position yourself for unparalleled success. Don't miss the incredible opportunities at Intelligent Office, Nashville Downtown, your key to flexible workspaces and virtual business support. Reach out today at 615-928-1900 or visit 315 Dedrick Street, Suite 1550, Nashville, Tennessee 37238. Together, we're shaping a bold, dynamic future. Let's uncover the issues and empower success. Now, it's time for Insight into Insight, all things societal. Let's get started. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Insight into Insight, all things societal, sponsored by our friends Intelligent Office, Downtown Nashville. I am your host, Danavan Hilton, relationship management expert and business advisor, helping you build your customer base and increase your community presence through 1, grassroots marketing, customer service training, as well as providing strategic advice and direction on how to take your goals or plans or vision to the next level, to include providing any insight, access, or resources that you'll need to make that happen. And for those that don't know, I am building an international brand looking to work with corporate brands in urban areas across the globe. And so a fun fact, I am a registered Lord of Glencoe in Scotland, courtesy of Highland Titles. As I build that brand, especially in the UK, African diaspora countries, in those cultures, there is a title called Lord, and that's where you're a landowner and a master of your profession. And so it's a great icebreaker, and it's also designed to stimulate my mind and those that follow my work to do the same. And so that's just a fun fact. And more importantly, I am here with my longtime friend, Miss Arlene Martin-Norman, who's not only a outstanding community servant, but she's also the owner of Healthier Future Consulting, a Nashville-based consulting firm that focuses on, and check this out, building healthier workplaces for businesses through comprehensive training, cultural awareness, and organizational assessment. Arlene, welcome to the show. We're excited to have you and to jump in this this topic that's really not talked about, at least from my understanding. Welcome to the show.
Well, good morning, Lord Hilton. Thank you for having me on.
Good morning, and more than welcome. It's our honor. Awesome. And so before we jump into your organization, Healthier Future Consulting, we want to first jump into who you are, just introduce folks to you. Now, if you don't mind me asking, before we get started, do you remember how we met initially?
I think we met at a community event.
Okay. Awesome. And what was it? How did we end up working together? Was there any projects that stood out to you that we worked on in the past of how we built the relationship of where we are today?
Oh, absolutely. In the beginning, it was, like I say, the community. We were a part of a community group, and we came together for that purpose, shared goals.
Mm-hmm.
Working to get to know you doing that, I found out what you do professionally. And so that's when I partnered with you and your lovely wife, and you helped me to begin to lay my foundation to making myself visible to the Nashville market in terms of offering consulting services. So you partnered with me to help me develop my business plan, my original well paid, just helped me to finance, gave me some tips on getting some finance. So, yeah, you've been very instrumental and very influential in helping me to continue to advance to get this business started.
Well, awesome. And thank you so much for those encouraging words. I'm truly humbled. And I know that you are a person of action and business. You are a fun person, but respectfully, when it comes to a mission and task, you don't play. And so,
Correct.
and that's just because, we all have a certain standard and you have that standard. And so it's really an honor for you to say those things and for us to be on the show today, because I've definitely learned a lot from you, your background, just your work ethic, how you just build relationships, manage relationships. And specifically, I want to make sure when it comes to just helping to lay the foundation work, it's really with your practice a win-win deal, and it's just making sure people are aware of what you're providing. And I say that to say, at one point, just watching you connect with staffing company Express Employment Professionals, and connecting with the business owner there, who's someone that works with over 200 to 1,000 employers easy, in a particular region, and just the conversation that you had in regards to, and what we're going to jump into shortly, workplace bullying, and just the insights and things for an employer to keep in mind. I saw, employers bought in to what you're providing. I've seen you in action as far as community relations in regards to actually hosting workplace bullying activities, information sessions, bringing on guest speakers that are very knowledgeable in that area. And you've done those events. I remember one at the historic Magruder Family Resource Center. And I know you had some very powerful speakers there, advocates. The names, I know it's Terrance was there.
Miss Thompson from the Goodwill.
Absolutely.
We had someone from, oh my goodness, the group that works with the ARC, the adult, it's something to do with the childhood trauma. But they had a representative there. We had the labor people there. So yes, we had a good turnout.
Absolutely. So the work you've done, you've been doing for a long time. So when it comes to laying the foundation, you've definitely been laying the foundation. We're very honored to be able to be a part of the foundation that you're laying, and that's why I really want to highlight, especially at this time, who you are and the work that you are doing. So let's jump right into it, if you don't mind. So, Healthier Future Consulting, bringing together healthier workplaces. For some that may not understand what I just said, can you explain a little bit about what that is, and maybe jump into how essential that is to the workplace, not only for the management, but also the technicians and operational team as well?
Well, let me give you a little backstory. My company came into existence in 2009. And at that time, I was really pushing nutritional supplements because I began to have a better understanding that what we eat is more than just tasting good and filling up our stomach. It should have a purpose of feeding our molecular cells, our cellular body. And that's how I got started. But later on, I began to have an experience at work that caused me to do some additional research. It was still connected to nutrition, because if you're in a stressful situation, your body, you need to be especially mindful of what you're doing and what you're consuming. And if you're taking a supplement, a vitamin, you need to make sure you have a high quality one, because being in a stressful situation can do long-term damage to your mind, to your body, just your overall well-being. And so that name began to have a dual meaning, because in the beginning, like I said, it was for nutritional supplements. I was becoming more knowledgeable about being mindful of what goes into my body, making sure that I was looking at things that were as close as possible from the farm to my table. But then as I experienced something in my professional position, I realized that there's some other things externally that can go on that also cause your health to be in question. And when you're in a chronic toxic work environment. That's when you really need to be mindful of your intake of your food, get you some very good vitamins, and then get you a very strong, reliable support system. And so, doing that dual purpose, I began to work with a representative out of West Tennessee, Antonio Parkinson, and he had introduced a bill. This is getting close to 2012. He had introduced a bill called the Healthy Workplace Act. So again, that's partnering with what I'm already standing for. And so now, instead of it just being something to offer in terms of employers can offer this opportunity for the employees to get a high quality vitamin through the employer. Also, there was this law passed that says, yes, we have the EEO laws, and those are for protected classes, but sometime in the workplace, there's some behavior that goes on that it may not line up with those protected classes. And that's where that Healthy Workplace Act became the Healthy Workplace Bill, which Tennessee was the first state to pass such a law that gives employers and the employee additional protection. Because the law says, if the employer models a policy after the state Tennessee Healthy Workplace Act, and it has the steps outlined in the policy and a training component, then that gives them greater protection against liability. Likewise, it gives the employee additional protection because what's happening under abusive conduct is not status. It's not related to your race, your color, your national origins, veteran status, but this new law gives that protection when people have intentional, repeated, harmful behavior that causes you emotional anguish. It interferes and damages your work performance. So that's another win-win because, but unfortunately, a lot of people don't know about the Tennessee Healthy Workplace Act. And a lot of people know that there are things going on in their work site, but they don't know how to address it. They don't know how to bring it up to the right people, as well as what should be the outcome when you bring that up to the right person. So it gets back to, once that law is in effect, it adds to all companies should have some kind of policy. So the first thing one has to know is what policies around the behavior does your company have on the books, and their human resource policies. And then make sure that included in that is some reference to this, if you're in the state of Tennessee, this Tennessee Healthy Workplace Act. And once you educate yourself and become knowledgeable about what the employer should be doing, and then you know what you should do, you can move forward. If there's something that violation of that, you know how to act. If you're just getting information so that if you run into that problem, you know how to act, or if you witness someone, because that's the other part of workplace bullying. It not only impacts the individual that may be a target, it impacts everyone. It's almost like when you put apples or fruit into a basket, and if you're not managing them or watching them every day, one starts to go bad. If you're not watching it closely, you ruin your whole bunch because one will spread to the other. And that's the same thing in an environment, in an office setting. If you have one person, a manager, or even coworkers, because it can be coworkers, and the thing that's happening now, you have mobbing, where it's a group of people that are mistreating individuals. So with this new policy, you know how you need to address that, and you move forward.
Wow. That's a lot to uncover. So many questions.
Okay.
So many questions. So how did you, and I don't want to dismiss anything that you're saying, because a lot of people may not, and again, it's so new, and we're talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, human resources here. Is that what we're?
Yes.
So, a lot of folks really don't, including myself, don't really jump into that side of life and business. And so they hear these things, and they hear mobbing and, emotional anguish and abusive conduct. I mean, these are things that, I feel really are not talked about, but is very essential. And the human resource side of things know exactly what you're talking about. Or if they don't know what you're talking about, definitely see value in the bill being passed, the Healthy Workplace Act. Correct me if I'm wrong.
The healthy. Oh my goodness! Now I've forgotten the name of.
And I have here Healthier Workplace Act.
Yeah.
And I I want to shout out Representative Antonio Parkinson as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to say I ran into the representative as well, but just to hear that this was something that was pushed legislatively,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what really helped to move this needle forward, is very interesting. And so, just to make sure it's a lot of questions I have here, but just to make sure we're on the same page. So, you were working in the nutritional field.
Well, that was going to be that was a entrepreneur effort I was doing. As well as it was I was going through something on the job, and so finding a way to increase my immune system
Mm-hmm.
with good quality vitamins, that led me to the Healthier Future and nutritional supplement line.
I see. And then so at some point, I think if we heard correctly, there were some challenges that happened
on the job.
The job, which required you to do some research.
Mm-hmm.
And after doing research, you saw a need and created your consulting firm.
Correct.
I see. Very, very interesting. And at this point, from your perspective, how big is that need? And do you feel like a lot of employers or HR professionals, at least in Tennessee, know about the new Workplace Act? And, so, how big is that need? Either people not knowing or just need to connect with consulting or to get a better understanding of what's going on?
Thank you for asking that question, Lord Hilton. I have an answer for you. If you look at, I was reading an article just this week,
mm-hmm.
Coming from looking at words that are searched on Google, and for the month of April 2023, toxic workplace environment was quizzed 700. It was an increase of 700%. The workplace mobbing was searched by conduct. That's another research group, 190%, and the HIPAA violations in the workplace, just for the month of April, 350% increase. So that lets you know there are people out there that they're looking for this information for some reason. And usually when you start looking for information, at least that's what I did, it was because it was happening to me. And I paid for myself to go out to Seattle, Washington, and met the North America foremost expert on workplace bullying, Dr. Gary and Ruth Namies, because they're both in this together. And that's where I became a certified independent consultant. But you asked a good question. Is there a need? And does HR know about this? I think the statistics with people looking for information shows that there is a need. Yep. And unfortunately, HR has been trained to look for those violations or infractions that violate the EEO law. But if this is not covered by the EEO law, then what does that mean HR is doing? It means that they don't really address it, because and that's what troubled me. I had people coming to me, as well as my personal experience with it, but I was doing investigations for this type of behavior, but because I couldn't connect it to race, color, national origins, pregnancy, veteran status, and so forth, we would send them a letter saying there was no finding. I could see how that dehumanized people. It was like saying, you don't believe what I'm saying. You're not taking my concerns serious. And that wasn't what we were saying. But because they were not identifying it to a violation of the law, there was nothing our office could do. And so again, that pushed me to, there must be some way to address this. There must be a better way to help employees navigate this system, as well as when you're in the HR field, not a whole lot of time is spent on risk management. And so when you go through your training and you look at what's expected from a human resource risk manager or a human resource specialist, there's not a lot of training in terms of building relationships. There's no training talking about bullying, because most of the time we use that term as it relates to children. And for some reason, we seem to think that once someone turned 18, if they had a problem with being self-centered, bullies, narcissistic, when you turn 18, all those things change. And we know that's not true. If you were that way growing up till you turn 18, you get your first job or whatever, and you're still that way unless you do some serious changing and learning. It can change. You can change, but you have to be intentional in making that change, and you have to re-educate yourself. So there is a need, and I think HR is one of the industries that lags behind in terms of 21st century changes, because a lot of things that HR people do now, they're the same methodology that was used during the Industrial Revolution. Does that tell you anything?
Wow. Wow.
The scientific method. And so we've gone through we've done from the Industrial Revolution to the information age to the digital age, and we still have those type of systems in place, because the only reason you may still find some companies that call up their HR personnel. HR personnel in the past has been a very transactional, and 21st century says we are transformational, we are relationship. We are relationship. People want to feel that they are contributing. They want to feel that you value them, that you're giving them respect, regardless of what the job is, regardless of what the title is.
Wow. Let's just so folks caught that, and all the nuggets that were just being poured out. Arlene said, we are now in a time of relationships. We are now in a time of relational experiences. It's no longer, or just be mindful that it's moving from a transactional experience. And at this point, if you're not being intentional on those relationships, especially in a workplace related environment, you're going to have more challenges at this point. And if you do focus on these things and address these needs, you're going to have more production from your team. People will want to come work for your company, because it sounds like at this point, they'll say this company, if this is their field and industry, this company gets it. They're going to take what I'm saying to heart, at least, give me the opportunity to be heard.
Yes.
And it's not as toxic. It's less stressful for me. And for that, I'm willing to sacrifice if I need to. I hope I don't, but the transactional side, because in the long term, it's healthier in more than one way, and it does benefit a company. I just want to make sure did I get that right when it comes to the healthier relationships compared to transactional?
Absolutely. We're moving away from binary, we're not building widgets. We're not putting widgets into some product to sell on the line. To sell to a consumer. It is about getting. A lot of things are going to be service, but we are moving away from building widgets and gadgets to understanding how can we make people's lives better, how can we improve what they're going through, and it's just, yes, you're right on. You summed it up very well. Yes.
What a time for humanity.
Yes.
Really, or at the minimum, at least I would say in America. To go through this. And I'm not sure if this is relevant or not, but I'm going to say it. But I always remember there was a time when a philosopher was like having time to think and become intellectual and, start to have a vision and everything. And it was said that that person had time to do that because at the minimum, their natural, essential surviving needs were taken care of. So they had a chance to now ponder and look at some of the deeper things. And I feel like at one point, respectfully, America as a culture may have been in the point of building widgets and products and things of that nature, but we're just at a point now where, those things are happening, and now what's really more of a focus is the relationship. We're just at that point, and I don't know if that makes sense as far as it's a blessing. Don't get me wrong, but some people might look at that from a different perspective, but just as far as I don't want to dismiss, transactional compared to relationships. Those are two different things. Two different approaches, and to hear you from your experience of doing research, just recognizing, hey, employers need to look at the numbers just in April 2023, 700%, 190%, 300%. So the need is there. That's what the question was. Was there a need? How do people? What's the feedback from the need? And you just really broke it down. And I just want to make sure people, did not miss that. And so before we jump into, and we get ready to wrap up here, but jump into, just the nuts and bolts of your consulting firm, I do want to shout out our sponsor that has, made this possible for us to continue to host this podcast, Insight into Insight, All Things Societal. Attention, small business owners. Are you tired of struggling to balance your workload and administrative tasks? Do you wish you had more time to focus on growing your business? Then you need to check out Intelligent Office in Nashville, located at 315 Diedrich Street, Suite 1550, Nashville, Tennessee 37238. Intelligent Office offers a range of services designed to help small business owners like you succeed. From virtual assistants who can answer your phones and manage your calendar, to professional meeting spaces where you can impress clients and collaborators, Intelligent Office has everything you need to take your business to the next level. But don't just take my word for it. Online reviews rave about the exceptional service and personalized attention that Intelligent Office provides. One reviewer wrote, "Intelligent Office has been an absolute lifesaver for my business. The staff is knowledgeable, friendly, and always willing to go the extra mile to help me succeed." Another reviewer praised the facility itself, saying, "The meeting rooms are top-notch, with all the technology you need to make a great impression on clients. And the location is unbeatable, right in the heart of Nashville, with easy access to all the best restaurants and amenities." So if you're ready to stop stressing about administrative tasks and start focusing on what really matters, growing your business, visit Intelligent Office at 315 Diedrich Street, Suite 1550 in Nashville, Tennessee, or call 615-928-1900. That's 615-928-1900. You won't regret it. And folks, we are here with my friend, Miss Arlene Martin-Norman. She's been dropping nuggets on workplace bullying, what that looks like, how she got started and involved in it. And we're going to talk about specifically her company and what that company does provide for your clients. And so first and foremost, when it comes to the type of industries or professionals you work with, is it safe to say you work with human resource professionals and executives?
Yes.
Okay, can you talk a little about, so when it comes to, and really small business owners too, would you say?
Yes.
As
yes.
well. Okay. So how has that experience been, and what do you find the majority of these, I'm going to call them prospects, even though they're human beings and people that, represent these different brands. But how does, when you connect with the prospect initially, how does that process look? Are they asking questions? Do they kind of know what to do? How does that consulting process look from the beginning? If you don't mind me asking, and who do you work with primarily as well?
Well, my primary target is government entities,
okay.
State, city, counties, and they need it, and the laws cover, I didn't mention this, but the law covers both the private sector and the public sector. Mm-hmm. So when this bill was first passed in 2014, it only applied to the public sector, but now a year later they were able to go back and amend it, and so this does apply and covers all employers. Unfortunately, employers, again, I mentioned to you that we still operate out of that scientific mindset, going back to Peter Drucker, who's the father of human resource scientific management. If you've gone to school or if your family has been in business, you're probably using those same methods, models that you were trained on or you were taught. Mm-hmm. So again, most of it, be it a small business owner, be it someone that's in your state, county, or federal government, there are policies in place for them, but whether or not they're actually implemented and followed the appropriate way, that's another area to be looked at. But with the small business owners, a lot of time, HR is the last thing they're thinking about. They are trying to get the business run. They just want a body. And a lot of time they may be started with family or whatnot. Mm-hmm. So that as what they are not understanding, yes, you may be able to get away with doing it now, but as you grow, it's better to lay the foundation. If you already have this in place, then now you got your 5 or 10 people, and now you're having to come up with these policies and procedures because now you need them. And so I try to be a part of that to say, you may not be there right now, but if we can start building that framework now as you grow, you'll just be tweaking something versus running into problems, and now you're trying to create it all on the go. You got this situation going on. You're trying to come up with your policies to control it. Owners, managers, CEOs, you the culture rolls down. If you don't make it intentional, you're still going to have a climate. You're going to have a culture, whether or not you make it intentional or it's unintentional. Organizations are like a living body. They take on a personality all their own. And you can either try to shape it or you can let it shape.
I hear that. I receive that. I know exactly what you mean. And so for you to say that, for those that don't know, that's just true facts. You know what Arlene just said. That, again, this is essential information. And I like the fact, I mean, it just really is. I mean, for everyone that works and is employed for either themselves or by someone else, this applies to you. I mean, and like Arlene just said, this is public and private now. So this applies to you. And so it's so important. And we just want to raise more awareness about the work that Arlene is doing. If you are in the workforce or you're a manager, human resource, and you just need more information, we're going to talk about how to connect with Arlene just so that you can become more aware as an employee or even as an employer. And hopefully it's a win-win, but I like the fact that, you're working with the government agencies first and then going into the private sector, since the government agencies a government official is the one that have pushed the act. And obviously you want the culture, like you said, the organization's culture is going to be one way or the other. So it makes sense for the culture of the government overall that pushed this to first be a leader by example. So that makes sense from the city to the federal level across the country. So you already have a lot of work to do. Your plate is full in that regard. And so just real quick before we wrap up, just as far as the training aspect, how does that process work? And so let's say a agency or an organization wants to work with you and they want some comprehensive training. Is that more online, virtual, hybrid, in person? What does that process look like?
It's what they need. It can be hybrid, it can be in person, it can be online. I prefer the in person because when we talk about relationship, it's kind of hard to have a relationship with that screen.
Great point. Great point. Wow.
But yes, we do offer training. I offer, but if you're starting out new, or if you have not been very mindful of what's going on in your organization, say you're a state agency and maybe you change leadership, like we just had a new mayor come in and you have new people come in, they want to look at what's going on in their group. You may have some surveys or something that the agency has already compiled, but unfortunately we do a lot of data collection. We are not as diligent in analyzing it to see what is the story, what have we captured here. And so the first thing I do when I'm working with an entity is look at what information does your human resource office or person already have. And does it highlight anything? Does it show any patterns, any trends, anything to be concerned about? And then if it's there, then that's what we look at. We focus in those areas. If your entity has not been doing that, then we'll start a framework. We have to go back to square root one and create that assessment tool so that we can come in and have your employees, your managers, your board of directors, everyone be a part of that assessment so we can see, okay, does everyone view the company the same way? And Lord Hilton, you and I had this thing over at the Goodwill Center where if you ask a CEO what they see their brand as being, and you ask that frontline employee, you may get a difference, and you should have the same. The wording may be different, but the bottom line should be very similar. It should be in sync. And so we make sure that we're able to help get them started on that. And then if we have that information, then we look at the training. We have a very Workplace Bullying Institute has put out a very detailed managers training, and I do that. We have good books that we could get from them, and also helping the company or the organization, if you have not formulated your policy, offer some assistance in helping you to develop or tweak your policies. Because another thing that has not been happening, the pandemic, as bad as it was, it also brought about some needed attention to doing some policy reviews. Because like I say, it is the employer's responsibility to not only to create a safe work environment, but a safe psychological work environment. And so when you bring people into your organization, it's almost like inviting someone into your home. You think you're inviting the whole person, but what we have experienced in the workplace is too often people are pigeoned in a box, in a little hole. The job description says you can do A, B, and C, and they just want you to do A, B, and C. You may have a wealth of other experiences. Your authentic self, you may bring all kind of creativity and experiences doing something, but that's not what they hired you for. And so they think, oh, don't say anything because that's not what you're paid for.
Mm-hmm.
How is that showing value for and retain? How are you going to retain somebody? You're not even allowing them to see if they can help you be better.
Right.
Because you're absolutely right. The research says that if you treat your people with respect, you value them, you allow them to be contributors and to make them feel that they are part of the organization, they stay. And money will not be the reason that they'll leave. Wow. Because people they want to feel that they're valued. They want to feel that you value their humanity. Because like you said early on, it's sad, but it does seem like we've gotten away from just being human with one another. The civility, that's another thing I have in my training. I have a continuum where we talk about on the left-hand side is very extreme incivility, and when you're going right, where it gets into hostility, homicide. And then I have my pyramid of hate, and we overlay that to show how the things that are going on in the outer society, once again, they don't stop at the door. If you have people that are getting bombarded with negative stuff and bad incivil behavior in the media and in public society, that's not stopping at the door when they come on your job. And so you need to be aware of that because, again, if you're not intentional, it's walking right in. Yep. And then you have someone else, they bring some more concerns and views into the office. So you have to manage that. You don't leave it to chance.
So I see what you mean as far as saying when you're a certain size, company size, I mean, it's a process. Like you said, you're first going in and saying, okay, what do you already have? Is the framework already there? Do we have to just tweak a few things, if at all? Or do we have to start from scratch? And I noticed you also had the organizational assessment, and that was a service. But ultimately, when you have your list of services that I saw on your website, it really becomes really just a process. You have to do it all at some point. Some maybe before the other, depending on where the company is. And I know for a fact what you're talking about goes across every industry, and people say there's a shortage in the workforce. But as much as we want to recruit, it's very important from what you're saying. It sounds like to focus on retention just as much. Yes. Because you want people coming in, but you also want people that are bought in as well. Yes. And those that are bought in may be able to do 100 times more with good psychological conscience than someone that you have 500 people and they're not bought in and they're stressed out, or it's just and I'm just listening to you. I'm just feedback what you're saying. I'm just listening to you. So as I listen, I'm thinking, okay, well, we have come a long way, because I'm thinking maybe in the 1800s, 1900s, and you were building railroads or widgets, or it just, those conditions were a lot different than what we're talking about now, and but it's evolved to the point where it's speaking for itself. I mean, people have an opportunity to leave reviews, and those are the numbers just for April. That's a big deal. If you're talking about a workforce and labor force, and wanting your citizens to be productive, within your economic society at the minimum, capital society. So these are all just really big points. And I want to make sure, again, I want to shout out Representative Parkinson for, pushing this forward. And obviously the votes passed to make it happen. So that was a big deal. And the fact that you're, working with the local, state, and federal agencies in the region, I'm sure soon across the nation, if you're not already doing that, we want to congratulate you in advance for that continued success. There's so many things we can go into, but I want to leave some information for folks to do their research on or to contact you. I want them, for those it's time for, for those that want to make it happen, the solution's right here, connecting with Arlene Martin-Norman and her firm to get the job done. That's an obvious. And so before we get your contact information, do you have any activities coming up, or that you're working on or a part of, or things that people should consider or be mindful of when it comes to workplace bullying?
Well, yes. Thank you for asking that, Lord Hilton. I am pulling together something for next Friday, as a matter of fact, and it's going to be toxicity in the workplace. Is it hidden in your organization? And I'm trying to secure that for the Entrepreneur Center, but I did make a note of your intelligent office, and I may be giving them up a call, but I do want to do that for next week. And then in November, I'm partnering with a lady out of West Tennessee, and she's doing a Women's Empower Her Summit.
I see.
And that's going to be live December the 5th through the 7th. And I'll be getting more information. I hope to share that with you so that you can share that with your network of
Absolutely.
people. And then for January, I'm hoping to partner with a state agency to do some kind of manager workplace bullying training.
That is awesome. You definitely have a full calendar, and I know you're just getting started. And if folks want to follow you online, socially, or through your website, how can folks get in contact with you?
Well, my website is www.healthierfutureconsulting.com. .inc. I'm sorry, went blank for a minute. Okay. And then my number is 615-415-9769.
And repeat that one more time for the listeners that may have missed it, please.
615-415-9769. And that web address was www.healthierfutureconsulting.info.
.info. Awesome. And is there a good email address for folks to reach you as well?
info@healthierfuture.info.
All right. And I'll make sure we put those links down so that way everyone can get to it easily. Awesome. And is there a particular awareness month that goes on with what you're talking about as well?
Absolutely. October has also been designated as Anti-Bullying Prevention Month. And I like to try to do something every year that just kind of puts it out there to the community, because it never fails. If you get into a conversation, or when I get into a conversation with someone, I say that I'm a consultant dealing with human resource issues, 9 times out of 10, one or two things happen. Someone tells me they are in that kind of a situation, or they know of someone that's in that situation. And so it's happening, but the action to correct it is what's lagging behind.
I see.
Because people are still reluctant. And like I say, it's not an easy thing to admit that as an adult, you get your qualifications. You went to school to do this, and then you get into a situation where someone is undermining you, they're belittling you, they're spreading rumors and gossiping about you, all of the stuff, especially when it's someone that you, as a manager or supervisor, you have the right to guide my career development. But if it's not helping me to grow to better serve the company, then you're doing the exact opposite. And that's what can be allowed to happen. And there are certain type of leadership styles that it happens more often with. So it's just, we need to talk about it so that we can address the problem. You can have something wrong with you, not feeling well, but until you go to the doctor and you try to give them the symptoms and he can diagnose what it is, you can't get a real treatment because
Right.
You don't know what you're fighting against.
Exactly. So many nuggets that you are dropping. So many. I want to try to keep it simple, but make sure you're listening. Make sure you reach out to Arlene. She's talking about, now she's going into leadership style. I mean, this is not now, because you can train and provide information, but it takes a certain leadership and acceptance to get there. And that's what Arlene's talking about here. Now she's getting into the deeper meanings of the root of it, because now you're going into the heart and the mind, and and it's a lot of things you have to address. I don't know if I'm off with that, Arlene, but that's what it sounds like.
You're right on the nail. You're hitting the nail on the head. And let me just add one other thing. The researchers say employees don't leave jobs; they leave bad bosses.
Ooh. I think that could be a relationship.
Doesn't it?
that could be a personal relationship situation too. I mean,
yes.
That's just a lifestyle. What you're talking about is a lifestyle habit,
Yes.
lifestyle values and patterns,
Yes.
and transit and going from a certain way of doing things into a new way.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm curious to ask you, one of my last questions is, from your experience, do you feel that the younger generations and the upcoming generations that will be born will be easier bought in and integrated into this type of workplace culture compared to those that have been working a transactional style job for 20 plus years, and respectfully, since COVID, things have drastically changed. Is it harder for them to adjust more so to this new style compared to the new generation, or does that matter at all, or is that just a human thing, if you don't mind me asking?
What I think the younger generations, it's not an option for them. This is all they know.
Mm,
You have to value
mm,
them. It is all
mm.
about relationships with them.
That's
So
powerful.
for them, if managers are trying to catch up with them,
Mm,
because that's what they expect. And they are, in the past, it was the younger generation that would be labeled job hoppers. Well,
mm-hmm.
now all generations are doing it
Right.
because it's how they're being treated and what they feel adds to their well-being.
Mm,
People, they want to, everybody has to do some kind of employment. I mean, unless you were born with a large generation of wealth, you have to do something to maintain yourself. But people want to feel good about what they're doing. They want to feel that people value what they're doing, that what you're adding is value.
mm.
And so the younger generation, they have that requirement from day one. So we got to catch up to them.
That is beautiful, and that is so powerful what you're saying. I'm so excited that we had a chance to connect with you and just stimulate our minds for something to think about, and that we can be empowered, at least within the state of Tennessee. That bill and that law is passed, and there's certain procedures already in place that one can follow to really start creating and expanding this new culture. This new mindset, and respectfully, the workforce that's coming in. Arlene made it very clear since day one, they're expecting that relational, experience. Like, that's just so, it's just a unique time. And I really urge everyone to connect with Arlene, follow her work, just follow her work. I mean, nothing else, and wish her well. If you know of any employers, public or private, that, would be open to connecting with Arlene for some consultation, maybe it may not be the heavier work, but, they want to pay her just to get some information to get started. That information is in the description to reach out to her. She has a lot of different activities going on, so please visit her website to stay up to date. And worst case, you can always reach out to me, and I will make sure I direct you over to Arlene. But we just want to thank you for this essential service to the labor and workforce area. The first agency I think of is your labor and workforce department for the city, state, or federal. So just thank you for what you're doing for all of us, just to advocate. Happy Anti-Bullying Prevention Month. I think that's very huge. And what Arlene is doing is, providing employment and human resources relations within that month, just awareness and advocating. And again, we want to shout out Representative Parkinson for just, going through that process and getting the votes that's needed to make this happen. And so that is all the time that we have. Oh, if you don't mind too, Arlene, we're going to, if you can leave us with what we call our intelligent wisdom session, intelligent and wisdom session. If you can leave us with one piece of wisdom, one piece of advice, one suggestion, this is a broad question for us to just keep in mind as we all go through life. What advice, suggestion, wisdom would you leave us with?
Do not allow anyone to live rent-free in your head. When you allow someone else to define who you are and what you are, they're living rent-free in your head. Do not allow anyone to live rent-free in your head.
100% received. And so folks say, well, Danavan, oh, you're doing this, and Lord, you're doing that, Lord. This is your network. Your net worth is your network. I think that's how they say it. Mm-hmm. And these are the folks that Arlene and I, we go back years, and just been able to be around and get this information, not only through professionally, but just also personally, and just working in the community together, and just being a friend. And so very excited that you all had a chance to get this very much needed information. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time. Again, we want to thank Intelligent Office Nashville Downtown for sponsoring these activities for us to bring on movers and shakers. And Intelligent Office Downtown Nashville, make sure you connect with my friend, Miss Arlene Martin-Norman, to see what kind of activities and opportunities lie ahead. And thank you all again for listening to the podcast. Listen out for the next episode. And again, we want to congratulate you in advance for the continued success in your career. Miss Arlene Martin-Norman, thank you so much for joining us. And we stand in agreement, more than welcome. We stand in agreement for all your continued success in your personal life, in your career. And worst case, we will see you at the top.
All right. Thank you.
You all
have a good day.
I hope you enjoyed this podcast. If you did, and you want to go deeper into relationship management, check out my website at www.ldhadvising.com. You can also book a relationship management session or even study relationship management yourself through my courses. I'll see you in my next episode.